And lastly, for you staying here in the hall, don't forget to put your phones on mute. So with all of that out of the way, let's get started. So we have 4 sessions to choose from this morning. And if you remain here in the auditorium, we will have a session on unlocking investment in Europe. In workshop room 1, we'll be ending the wait and securing fair payment conditions for SMEs. In workshop room 2, you can take part in the SME AI exchange. And in workshop room 3, the No Net Zero Without SMEs policy workshop will focus on energy cooperation. So that's pretty much it for me now. Enjoy the sessions, and hopefully I'll see you back here at 10:45 for the Youth Startup Competition 25. Enjoy your morning.
Thank you. Cheers. Yeah. Guys, wait. I think starting. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our panel, Unlocking Investment in Europe. I know it's still really early, but I hope everyone got their first cup of coffee. And I promise this discussion will be just as energizing. I'm Lola Onipko, co-founder of Invest and Bravery, an organization that works with startups in defense and resilience sector, connecting them with investors. And I will be your moderator for this session. The motto of this SMEs Assembly is Successful SMEs Competitive Europe. But Europe stands at a pivotal moment. The SMEs, the heart of our economies, are facing multiple headwinds. insufficient investment, declining productivity, lack of skill, and of course, climate crisis and war on our continent. To stay competitive, we need to enable our companies to grow, and that means unlocking the investment. So let's unpack today how we can do it. What holds us back? Where are the opportunities? And how we can make Europe the best place in the world to start and grow a business. Let's welcome our panelists. So we have Sine Lindestrom, Director of Small Medium Enterprise and Entrepreneurship at Danish Industry, leading initiatives to improve access to finance, cut regulatory barriers, and strengthen Denmark's startup and SME ecosystem. She previously also worked at the Danish Export and Investment Fund and Finance Denmark. Sine. Next, we have Jasper Hjalbak, one of Denmark's top angel investors, president of European Business Angel Network, vice chair of Danish Venture Capital Association, the former chair of Danish Business Angel Network, awarded Business Angel of the Year in Denmark in 2023 and in the EU in 2024. Jasper also chairs the private equity fund CataCap, sits on the board of multiple growth businesses, including B&O or Bang & Olufsen, and lectures at Copenhagen Business School. Hi, Jasper. Next, we have Vincent Jocquet, managing partner at Ready Ventures, a Belgian early-stage VC backing ambitious European tech founders. Before investing, he was an operator in both software and hardware scale-ups, giving insights on both sides of the table. And last but not least, we have Arthur Kasperstorm Tekelbjerg. That is definitely was the hardest name to pronounce today. CEO and co-founder of Spark Technologies, a Copenhagen-based startup building an AI-native platform for public affairs professionals. It's great to have you here with us on stage today. So we will take some time for discussion, 30 to 40 minutes, and then we will open floor for Q&A. So please use sliders to submit your questions, and we also will give the opportunity to ask your question in person. We will have a mic passing around, so whatever feels better to you. And without further ado, let's dive into the discussion. According to the latest Investment European Bank survey, investment intent remains remarkably strong. 86% of companies are still planning to invest in 2025, just slightly down from the last year. But growth is winning, and the shift and the focus on the investment is shifting. Only about 26%, or 1 in 4 companies, are planning to expand capacity, to invest in land, building, infrastructure, meaning that most are modernizing, but not scaling. And 35% of total investment already goes to intangible assets, such as R&D, software, and training. So Europe is transitioning, green, digital, but cautious. Depending on the size and stage of SME, whether it is startup or scale up with traction who are looking to expand their businesses, the companies are facing very different realities when it comes to accessing capital. So let's unpack why and what holds us back. Vince, let's start with you. You work with early stage companies and venture capital. How do you see the investment climate today, and what are the biggest gaps holding VC growth in Europe?
Thank you, Laura. I think from our perspective, we see that there was a big boom in 2020, 2021, and we gradually, 2023, saw the bottom of this, and now we're moving up again. So I think also in other panels, we've seen positive outcomes, let's say cautious positive outcomes currently. But that also means that we're more disciplined, and actually we're more selective. And I think for VC investing, that is a good thing. I think we don't want to spray and pray, we don't want to go too far. We really want to focus on the ones that can actually create value. When we look at the current, let's say, challenges, we've been looking at the past a lot during this SME Assembly, and I think also for venture that aligns with what we see as current gaps. I think the biggest gap undoubtedly is the single market, or the lack of a single market. I think what we need to do is collaborate more across the borders, collaborate more with each other. I think we should also start more to buy from each other. I think that's the first thing we can do while we wait for legislation. But we need to show that it's necessary. I think the second gap that we see is that the deployment of capital is skewed. There is deployment in early stage, there's deployment in later stage. But if we see that along the startup journey there is a gap with funds not being able to deploy 10 to 50 million when there isn't a growth need, then also for us as early stage investors, the road for successful building bigger companies is also blocked. So we need, for early stage, we need to see the future also. We can't have the spark ignited, but then not be able to put more fire on the wood on the fire. That brings me actually to the third point, and I think that's also essential, is that we still have a gap in investing in VC in Europe. So if you look at other continents, we see much more money going and flowing into VC. We really need to encourage this, and I think it should be possible to create more fuel for startups, and so we could also see more growth, because there's no growth without fuel. It's kind of a vicious circle.
Amazing, thank you. Thank you for bringing those points up. And Jesper, as an angel investor, you're often the first believer, but what's stopping private capital to flow freely and more into early stage startups?
Yep. First, if I set the stage, if you look across the EU and you look at the angel networks, we see a very, diverse landscape. And broadly speaking, the further west or north you are, the more sophisticated, and the further east you go, the less sophisticated. And the reason I say this, it means when you want to address policy matters, there is no one-size-fits-all, at least measured on a national level, because of the different levels of sophistication. So this means that my organization too tries to help those less developed angel communities to develop by taking the best practices from those that are developed. Having said that, I've been angel investing for 20 years. I have seen initiatives at the EU level which have failed, not because of lack of good intentions, but because it took maybe 10 years before the member countries had adopted it. By the time they had done that, they had done it in a very diverse way. So what started off as an intent for a pan-European set of conditions ended up 10 years later with a mosaic. And this means that when you're a startup trying to scale, you're not addressing a single market, you're addressing 27 markets. And that obviously is a huge problem compared to the US and to China. So therefore, if I'm going to talk solutions, and it's probably more constructive, but I think the number one solution would be the enactment of the 28th directive. And I know there is intense work on this happening, but there are all kinds of interface problems between having a European kind of layer and the interaction with tax legislation in 27 countries, etc. So the point is
let's definitely dive into this in the next block, and I would love to cover a little bit more on the 28th regime, because I think that's something that our audience is
so then I'll carry on with the problems. Just two final problems is to say that when we have this real lack of risk capital compared to our two main competitors, there are two reasons. One is over-regulation of the financial sector, which as a response to the financial crisis of 2008, the EU went into overdrive. But actually, before that, there had been, courtesy of a Danish prime minister, a big scare about hedge funds, and so legislation was put into effect, which also affects, business angels, and it is completely out of proportion to the risks that angel funds could attract. None of them represents systemic risk, but they are treated in the same fashion, the same legislation as hedge funds that move billions per day. That is ridiculous. And the other thing is, obviously, that in many countries we have a capital gains tax, which is prohibitive. So these two items, they're not new, they're very old, but until we get moving on this, we're going to see risk capital being 1/10 of what it is in the US, despite having the same market size. It's our own fault.
Definitely something that holds back. Thank you, Jesper. And Sine, you work both with startups, but also scale-ups, or in other words, SMEs with traction, larger scale company who are really looking to expand. So maybe first of all, drawing on startups, do you agree maybe that with what's been said? And also, how does it looking for scale-up? Do they experience, why are they cautious? Do they experience similar problems? And also from a policy point of view, what structural barriers are still there that prevent investment from flowing freely?
Many good questions. If I should start with the analysts on early stage funding, I agree that it's very different in Europe, and actually the access to early stage funding has become much better in Denmark the last 10 years. This is not where we have the largest challenge. The large challenge is growth capital, and we share that with the rest of Europe. So this is really here where we need to step up. Being cautious, we ask our members just recently, what are the growth barriers for you? And it's all of our companies we ask. We have SMEs, entrepreneurs, also the large companies. And the number one challenge is insecurity. Insecurity about what is happening in the world, of course. Tariffs, geopolitics, and so on. You all know what is at stake here. And the second and third one are administrative burdens and lack of employees. So this is some of the explanations I think here, and some of it we cannot do anything about. So it's to have a focus. What can we do ourselves here? What actually is within our scope of handling things? And I have this story which I would like to share now, because this is a story about what is at stake here. What is at stake here when we say that the US, they have better markets than China, that is really pushing the market, and there's so much public funding in the venture market. And this story was the other day. I just stared into the screen because I received this mail from one of our startup members. I know him very well. We often talk together. He is racing now. He's racing a seed round. He has started companies before, so he's an experienced founder. And he is developing within energy efficiency. And he told me that he just went to this conference the other day at Danish Industry. And then when he was finished, he met accidentally 2 Chinese individuals. And they was quickly to have a talk with him about what he was doing, and they were very interested. And just in 5 minutes, he was invited to come to China. And they would pay all of it. And 2 weeks after, he was on his flight to China, and he came back, and he was so impressive because they have made all the trips for him. He was introduced to companies and dinners, and they were talking about investment and this incubator they have. They would like him and his team to be part of. And when he came back, he just received this NDA from them. So I was just so quickly there. They move so fast, and he was really impressed about how far they are within the manufacturing sector, because this is where he developed his technology. So it is for this sector, and they are really far ahead. So this is just a story on what is at stake here. Because of course he likes to be in Denmark, but he's also looking for funding, and here is someone that is really wants to collaborate with him, and they are not waiting. So this is really something we need to be aware of, because in Denmark and lots of places in Europe, we are very good at innovation. We have good universities. We have a lot of talent, but when it comes to scaling and reap the fruits, we are losing here.
Yes, and this is a critical point that we probably will come back later in the discussion as well. Thank you. Thanks, Sinead, for sharing. And we have a founder here with us as well, Arthur, and you have raised already 1.5 million, I believe, in your latest round. Share from your founder perspective, how easy or hard was it for you, and where did you face the biggest barriers in securing your investment?
Yeah, sure. Well, yes, that's correct. I raised a pre-seed funding round of 1.5 million euros about a year ago, And I think there are a lots of learnings from having raised around like that. We raised it from Swedish investors, so it was European investors and also even Nordic ones. And I think that in general, investors look for companies that are good, right? Companies that grow fast, that create value, that have a good business case. And the startup community is extremely international. And it's when we have spoken to investors, they are of course comparing us to companies all around the world, because every investment case is only a Zoom call away. So whenever we do a pitch, they look at our pitch deck, they look at our numbers, they look at our traction, and they look at the American companies, they look at the companies in the UK, look at the companies even in Asia now as well. And we are all getting assessed by the same parameters. And the issue is not so much that there isn't capital in the market. I mean, I think we're sitting here with two people that make investments on a regular basis, and I think that if the right investment came by today, you guys would probably invest on the spot. But the issue just is that it's extremely hard as a European startup to grow as fast as a company in the US who is maybe doing the same thing that you are doing, or a company in Asia who is doing the same thing, because of some of these things that, for example, you, Jesper, is mentioning. I mean, extremely fragmented market. We have way higher costs when it comes to regulatory or legal requirements, because there's such a fragmented framework for laws around the markets that we want to scale to. There's also a large language barrier in some markets. You see some markets, even here in Europe, where it's not possible to have an online sales call in English and sell a product, whereas in the US this is culture and something that they do and see as completely normal. So it takes a lot more effort to get a customer. It takes a lot more effort to do a market expansion, and with effort I mean resources, time, money, and I think this is the biggest roadblock to raising capital. Because I've never had an investor not say, well, yes, we want to take a call, we want to hear about your idea, we want to see your numbers. But I think the hard part is just getting compared to a company that has way less, you can say, barriers, and a way bigger and more homogeneous market. So these are the things that I see as the biggest barrier to receiving investment, not that there isn't capital. So we can talk about the 28th regime, which I think is a brilliant initiative, and we can talk about lowering burdens for small companies. But I think it's a very easy or clear-sighted impression that you get as a founder when you sit and talk to investors in the US or in the UK. You get a very strong impression that they're looking at you and comparing you to someone else, and if you just aren't able to grow as fast because of these things, then you're not the one getting that investment. Simple as that.
Yes, so the competition is really, really global. Thanks for sharing your perspective from a founder lens, and that makes a perfect bridge, I think, for our next question. And really, I would like us to get a bit more practical now and speak about what can we do to make investment bigger, faster, and smarter across Europe. And maybe let's start this time from you, Sina. From your perspective, which policies or EU initiatives could have the biggest impact? Maybe something we can do short term and something will take longer time to build and implement.
Well, I think the Safe Investment Union is very important, because we need to mobilize much more of the private capital in Europe, and there are several things to be done here. First of all, it's how can we get more of the pension funds, the institutional capital, flowing into venture and growth, and it's just the facts say that it's just too little that are being invested here. I read this analysis the other day where it showed that American pension funds, they are investing more in German startups than German pension funds are investing in German startups. So it's not you can really get a good return here, but it's about culture. It's about being aware now. How do we, the big savings we have actually large savings, especially also in Denmark. How do we invest this? We need to be smart here. And therefore, I'm very happy with this Scale-Up Fund, Europe Scale-Up Fund, that are going to start up next year. The sooner the better. And the purpose is to blend private capital with public funding, and it's very important because this is going to be a very huge fund. It's going to invest in C and D rounds. And we don't have these funds in Europe. So I think it's really important now that these initiatives, they will be rolled out, and it doesn't take too long. And then we must see how it works, and go back and see if we need to change something. And also we need to, all the member states need to look in models and how we can make it attractive for pension funds. There is some red tape. I know when I talk to the pension sector, we need to remove that double reporting that makes it very difficult for them to invest in this segment. How do we implement regulation? Our national financial authorities are sometimes very strict. So here we really need to look at that and remove that. And that is part of this Safeman and Investment Union. And then we also need to look on how we can get more retail investors to invest here. There are good examples in Sweden. They have the Aktiesparekonto. We also have in Denmark. In Denmark, it could be much better, but this is a way where we can also invest in this segment, in startup and scale-ups and SMEs. But we need to have a model for it, a possibility to invest. So. And here we can learn from some of the best, and I think Sweden really has found a very good solution with their Aktiesparekonto.
Thank you. All very good points addressing the lack of scale capital regulations and how to unlock investments that now might be going somewhere else, in case of pension funds, retail funds. I think yesterday we've heard that access to finance panel as well, that some of the pension funds in Europe also invest outside of Europe, which is, hopefully that will also change over time. So Vince, if you could design the ideal environment for early stage VC, what would it look like? And any tools or mechanisms that could unlock more early stage capital?
I just want to comment on what you said, with the focus of pension funds investing also abroad or outside of Europe. I think investment managers are being rewarded for return. So that actually implies that you're saying that outside of Europe, there's better opportunities to invest. So I think linking that to your question, we need to be able to make ourselves more competitive. I think that's the big word that has already been on the lips of people for a long time. And when I listen to what Arthur says, we need to go faster. I think fast is essential. Fast doesn't mean that we're uncautious, that we're not meticulous, that we don't do our job. I think we just need to make sure that the environment that we create on all levels is faster. Because our ICP for us as an investment fund is the startup founder, the team. So we need to look into what they need, right? We don't need to look into secondary, we need to look into what we need. And then we need to look into what people need to give us to be able to eventually give it to the startup. So I think we need to think all about the ideal customer profile and our consumer profile. And our profile is the startup. So if they want to go faster, if they need money more quickly, then we need to be able to also deploy it. So if we think from a business point of view, we need to go fast, and also from a policy point of view, it needs to align with these let's say, mindset. So I think it's a big mindset shift. So my ideal environment would be that we're all thinking entrepreneurial, and that links to the everyday entrepreneur. Maybe we should all be a little bit more accountable for what we do as an entrepreneurial feeling. We are the entrepreneurs of our own family, but we need to think about that also in a business point of view. We can't hide away from everything that happens. We can't hide away beyond, let's say, the red tape and bureaucracy. An ideal environment is an environment that can thrive at the right moment with the right funds in the right place. And I think we need to create the place, to create the environment of funding. And eventually that, for me, at the moment, is linked to fast, because fast is quantifiable, fast can be measured. And I strongly believe that if we all want to go a little bit faster, that potentially we can create more of that essential environment and breeding ground that we need here in Europe.
Speed is critical. Couldn't relate more to this for sure. Thank you. And Jesper, what would help mobilize angel investment capital across Europe, especially cross-border? You already started talking in the previous block of questions about 28 regime, so share more with us. What's your perspective?
Yeah, first of all, on the 28th regime, the reason why that is interesting is because you could create a pan-European platform where the ambitious startups could incorporate and where the institutional investors then could look across a European selection of startups as opposed to having to understand 27 markets. And if you look at the institutional investors, in certain countries, actually there is some, movement, and they are increasingly allocating some of their funds. And here I'm talking about going from 0.6 to maybe 2 or 3%. This is what I'm talking about. So I'm not talking about a large proportion, but something that would be much more constructive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. By having this platform, then you can match these, very ambitious startups to venture funds that have seen the light, if you like. That again does not negate the importance of acting at the national level also. We have in EBAN given the Commission 5 or 6 examples of very successful instruments in which you can attract financial institutions to invest in this area. I think the most famous of those is the TB initiative. Philip TB was here at the Tech Barbecue in August. He was at our summit in Brussels 3 weeks ago. He has managed first to attract, I think it was 9 billion euros, and in the second round, 7 billion euros. Then you are talking amounts which actually can move the needle. So because this is the very frustrating thing. We have excellent innovation in our universities because they're publicly funded, and so they do a lot of good work, and they're not private enterprises. And we have lots of money in Europe, but we're unable to match them. And the awful thing about development of companies these days is that in the digital age, for a lot of companies, not only is it a global competition from the start, but it's also winner takes all. And the Americans have understood this. You can see some of the examples of some of the big tech companies. How many years did Amazon or Uber have a loss? More than a decade, and they poured money into it. We sit there and we do this drip feeding, this slow startup, and that kills the scaling, And so the Commission came up with a report in end of May, when there was one diagram which I would like to have shown, but the great thing about this diagram is it addresses the fact that we have 2 funding gaps. One is with the angels, and the other is with the scaling up. Now an initiative has been taken to do this very big scaling up, and that is important, but it's actually also important to address the angel side. And there are people who have understood, even the Commission, that having a healthy angel environment feeds the startups, because then you can draw upon the experience of angels. We always call it clever money. So it's not the size of the funds provided, it's the experience, the connections, etc. So you need to have a thriving angel community. And this 28th directive would enable the most ambitious angels also to work there together with the most ambitious venture companies.
It's great to see that synergy coming across between angel venture and scale-up capital, both private and public together.
And it's not an easy cooperation. I've been to Silicon Valley several times. You speak with business angels there. Half of them say, when the venture funds walk into the room, we walk out, right? And the other half say, these are my great partners. And then there was a correlation, because the first category, that's in Silicon Valley, where everybody stabs everybody. It's a wonderful competitive environment. And the other half is so-called flyover states. And this is between the East Coast and the West Coast, and the flyover states, it's small communities, so the venture funds and angels have to behave. So that gives two different types of cooperation. We are 27 small countries. We should learn to behave and cooperate, and I think we can. And this platform would help us to do that.
Thank you. And Arthur, from founder point of view, what do you think would truly move the needle to make fundraising easier and faster for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a little bit back to my point before. I think that the barriers and the issues are primarily within helping companies grow, not so much raise capital. The dynamic of the investment market is very much that the best investments get investment. So I'm not too worried about being a fast-growing company and not getting funds. I think this is something that will probably be solved by the market itself. But I think that there is a couple of issues. One is that what kind of companies do we want to create in Europe? Do we want to make these really, really big winner-takes-all companies? Because then it's going to take a complete mindset shift that is sort of a societal one. That means that we as a society will be happy to keep pouring money into companies with a loss, you can say. Because what is the value of having a market winner? Like, what is the value of having an Amazon or a Meta or a Google or an Uber? It's extremely hard to put a price on having a globally dominating market winner in your country. And we don't really have that many in Europe. I mean, if you look at the largest stocks in the world, like all of them are American or Chinese or even now Middle Eastern as well. So I think, first of all, we need to think about what kind of companies we want. Do we want to produce more medium-sized companies? Well, fine. I mean, that's what we are doing now. We are optimizing for companies becoming kind of large, but not mega. I believe in the other one. I believe that we should try in Europe to build a society where we can actually produce market winners. And this is, a mindset shift. But also, it's about creating this fast track for companies that are super ambitious, that actually have an idea that provides enough value for it to scale globally. 28th regime is a great one. This eliminates some of it. But I think that there are a lot of, you can say, dynamics in the labor laws as well that are extremely painful to small companies. For example, why does it make sense to found a small startup if you are a person that has an education and is bright and could go on a career track in a large company instead? We at Spark went 8 months without salary to sort of fuel the first couple of months of growth, and we had a business angel join us as well. We had an early stage investment fund as well. But to be honest, it kind of takes you being crazy to throw yourself into 8 months without salary, because none of us who founded Spark weren't admitted into a great university. None of us couldn't go out and get a great position that would track us into a great career later on, which is extremely fortunate and privileged. But it takes being a little bit crazy to start a company in Europe because the other options are so good. And then there's the part about hiring people to join your crazy little company. And I think the upside just isn't very large for people that leave a great corporate career track to join a startup, because even your warrants, if you join as an early stage employee, they get taxed super heavily. It takes a long time before you can get a payout, and it just really isn't that attractive to risk, joining a startup and tracking away from your corporate career, because we just haven't been able to in Europe create an upside that's huge. That's why we see so many founders leave and build internationally. Most of the Danish unicorn founders are not in Denmark. And when I say most, I mean almost all of them are not in Denmark anymore. So I think there's something about what kind of companies do we want to build? Do we want to build market leaders? Well, then it's a complete shift in mentality. I think we should do it. And then there's the other part, which I think is under-addressed, the labor laws part, creating maybe some labor law rules for people that choose to join startup to make it more beneficial or to make the upside bigger for those who also want to take a risk and become part of building those companies that will go on become market dominators.
Thank you.
Agree. Good point.
Thank you for the perspective. And so we've heard now different point of views from policy, private capital, founders. I just want to do a quick fire round on how we can put those efforts together to turn investment intent into actual growth. So maybe super quick, one sentence piece of advice, how we can attract and deploy more capital across Europe. Sina, maybe starting from you.
Yes, I would suggest that you look at Denmark and our funds of funds model called Danish Growth Capital. We have actually succeeded in getting pension funds invest in this funds of funds. It started out with this Danish state giving some loans during the financial crisis to the pension funds, and this was to de-risk this investment. And it showed out they got a very good return, and afterwards it has shown that this construction is 100% commercial viable. So this is something to build on. We have shown how we can blend this, and I think we need to do more of this, and we need to understand how can we mobilize this and make it attractive. And this is a very concrete way to raise this risk capital. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. Jesper?
Two things. One is to deregulate angel funds. There is a kind of a nursing attitude, and when angels invest, they can invest directly into the portfolio company, which is extremely risky, or they can join a syndicate of angels and invest into a portfolio of companies. The second choice means you have to follow EU regulation, and it is extremely complicated. And who are you protecting? You're not protecting society because the amounts are insignificant. And you're not protecting the individual because they're taking much bigger risks on their direct investments anyway. Mm-hmm. So why do you have that regulation? Then if you go to, as a retail customer, to the banks, there are some of them that put you through an exam that if you want to invest in exotic financial instruments, you have to pass a test. So they want to see that you understand the risks in this instrument. Once you've done that, then they can open up the showcase of all the stuff you can invest in. Similarly, you could say, why not have a qualification as an angel? Once you've proven that, then go ahead and make all the funds that you want to make, because you're taking much bigger risks, besides that anyway. So that would be a very good thing to do.
Angels.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jesper. Vince?
Make co-investment easier. So let the money flow into the managers that effectively are boots on the ground with the startups that know where things happen. So I think if we look at the mean or the average time it takes to get public funds in a venture fund, it's probably 18 months or something. I mean, from the moment you write the thesis, you go out, 18 months pass. I mean, your thesis probably also changed a little bit. Investment periods typically are 4 years, so you're already halfway. And typically this is also a big chunk, because that's also the point of having public money. So making that faster, just as I said before, would be, and with less hurdles, would allow more money to flow easily into the environment. Sorry.
Arthur?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to hear what you guys' takes on this is, because I can also hear that you're thinking about making it easier for the investor, or making it easier for the angel, and I, of course, want to make it easier for the founder. And I think that it's, again, back to the part about, it's a little bit the chicken and the egg, right? And I think that if we produce better companies, then you will find the money to invest in it. And I think also if what's tedious is the investment process, if it's expensive for you to do an investment, or if it's difficult, well, then it's about creating better investment opportunities so that when you go through those tedious processes, and even with the cost that might have for you, it still ends up becoming a really, really great investment for you guys, because the companies are growing fast and generating a return for you. And I think that as soon as the politicians see that we get more people who found successful businesses that end up contributing to society, getting sold, paying a lot of tax money, then they will change the rules as well for you guys. Now we have simplification, like omnibus initiatives and so on, which is of course a great, you can say, test to the will of the politicians, whether they actually want to make it easier for the industry to run a company and to grow. But yeah, I think that it's about fundamentally making it easier to grow a company faster, to generate better returns. This will make it easier for the investors to swallow the hard part of making an investment and the costs associated with it, and will help the politicians also change the rules because they see the benefit.
Thanks, Arthur. Jesper.
Yeah, I just had a comment, that in the EU we want to save the planet, unlike the US and China. So we have regulations about this. Then, German industry is challenged, French industry is challenged. So they said about, couldn't we simplify some of the reporting that these small companies have to fulfill, the omnibus. And you have the EU Commission, you have the Council, you have the Parliament. What happened in the Parliament? The extreme left and the extreme right got together and voted it down. So despite the fact that German industry needs help, French industry needs help, these are two very important players. Even if you convince the Commission to simplify, and it went from, was it 1,188 measuring points to less than half that, but it had to go through this machine. And this is, our big challenge is the slowness of the EU, the inability to act fast to help scale.
Yes, Vince.
Yeah, I want to comment on what Arthur said. I think we can create that flywheel by celebrating success. And I think we need to define what means success, right? And success does not always mean unicorns. It means return. It means tangible things. And I think that's also alluding to the fact that what Arthur said is what do we want to create? But at the end, we need to make the goal achievable for everyone. So if we focus on the unicorn decacorn, how is that achievable? We need to focus on returns, 10x returns, 20x returns. That's already companies of 100, 200 million exit value. So if we qualify what is success, I think we can be closer to qualifying what is needed for that success and to make the route possible. Because otherwise we're just doing something and being disappointed along the way and not making successful things. And one more thing that we observe in early stage is that if success currently is defined by making a global company, some companies that we invest in, they set up a US Inc., not a Belgian limited company. And why? Because they work from Belgium, they hire from Belgium, they hire internationally also, but they believe that if they want to receive American investment, they have to have an Inc. So there is a fundamental issue there, because if you're not in Delaware, but you have a Delaware company, because you believe that somebody in the US, where your biggest market is, will eventually invest, then your definition of success is not qualified in Europe, it is qualified in the US. So that mindset shift of EU Inc., which is something that I really applaud, needs to be also in our success stories. We need to talk about Skype, we need to talk about Lovable. We don't need to talk all the time about Palantir or Meta or whatever. We need to tell our own stories. And I think that would definitely bring more interest in what we do, and also have the everyday entrepreneur think about something that they can relate to, instead of all these unicorns that have great losses and eventually make a lot of money for a very few people. So that is, I think, the narrative that we need to chase, and not so much something that is, for some people, a reality, but for most, just a dream.
I think both of you, and Arthur, I will give you... Okay. I think we can actually hear from the applause on both comments from Vince and Arthur before that this is a good reflection of what this assembly is all about, because we really want to talk and draw on successes of the huge big companies. At the same time, we don't want to leave behind the everyday entrepreneurship. And yeah, it's a real challenge, what we focus on and how we able to promote both. Arthur, did you want to maybe add something last point?
Yeah, no, I think this is maybe the part of the debate that I care the most about, is like the ambition level of Europe, And I think that I maybe fundamentally disagree, with your point on what kind of companies we have to. I mean, we have to celebrate all successes, of course. Like this is not something that I will dispute, but I think more like the part of saying we want unicorns and decacorns and global domination companies in Europe, and I think this is the goal number one for our market, is to get into this league because China has them, US has them, now the Middle East has them as well. We don't really have them. We have very few ones, and for example, founders moving outside of Europe with those companies. And I think that the ones that provide the most societal value are actually the ones that become very, very large. Like you look at Amazon, I think the largest employer in the US. So that's a great example of a company that became enormously large in a very small amount of time, and now creates, thousands of jobs. And I think actually the companies that get sold for, 50 million euros, 100 million euros, and so on, these are the ones where the wealth maybe, tends to stay with very few people and benefit only a couple of the people who run those companies and make those smaller exits, whereas the ones that go public and where the public can buy shares in these fast-growing companies, and where there's a lot of spin-offs from those companies because they become very large, and I think those are the ones where the wealth distributes more into society. I think this is a really interesting debate, and I would urge people who work on the policy side to help create those first mega companies in Europe that will play in the same league as Amazon and Uber and so on, the ones we talk about, because they become great successes.
I think definitely a topic for a huge debate. Would love to have more time to go through it, and also would be really good to fund this kind of research to really measure the impact and traction and try to find some data that would support either perspective. I don't think we will find the clear winner here, but that's something to really find out. And on top of it, I couldn't agree more with what we are discussing here in terms of keeping the talent in Europe, focusing on innovation here. And we talk about the solutions, how to do it. At the same time, I have like one maybe additional thought. Alongside the green and digital transition, Europe is now investing into its security. And more and more SMEs are part of this space, developing technology, capacity building, driving innovation. Because security and competitiveness is so deeply interconnected, I believe that our prosperity, depending not only on how we innovate within our borders, but also how we collaborate with our partners outside of it, beyond the borders. From my own work with Ukrainian innovation and defense ecosystem, I've seen just how much potential there is for cross-border partnership, where technology, testing, and capital can really flow both ways. So my own maybe final piece of advice is still collaborate, co-create, and co-invest with our international partners and allies who align with us, with our values, because this is how we build more secure, more prosperous, and more competitive Europe. And so thank you so much for your perspectives. We have about 10 minutes for questions. And maybe I would first ask the audience, is there anyone who would like to ask a question? Yes, I think we have a hand over there. And over there as well. Perfect. And here. Okay, great. I think the audience is not sleeping. They are awake.
Hello, thank you very much for your contribution and discussion. My name is Oliver Geider from Eurocrowd. I have a question to all on you on the panel. This has been a quite traditional investment discussion, and it makes us in Europe look kind of slow. But since the financial, what did we have there, the 2008 crisis, the European Commission has actually moved incredibly fast in creating two capital market laws. MiCA, Markets in Crypto Assets, and ECSPR, European Crowdfunding Service Provider Regulation, which allows limited liability companies make public offerings for up to 5 million euros per year. And MiCA also is a tool to finance small companies. But you didn't mention any of them. Can you maybe tell something about this, how this plays a role in your day-to-day business, if you thought about using it, if you have seen any kind of collaboration with these markets? Thank you.
Vincent?
Maybe on the, and thank you for the question, on crowdfunding. I think typically what we see is specifically on a focus group of companies, specifically B2C, because they can tell the story, and a lot of people that acknowledge what they do and see what they do and also want to buy what they do, typically find their way there. It's a $2 billion euro market, so it's huge. So I do think it's a great initiative, but we don't see it that often in what we invest in, because I think most typical VC in Europe focus on B2B. So the ones that do B2C then see this as a growth path. But the reason why it's 2 billion is probably also because there's not a lot of venture going into this. So it is essential that, of course, it gets a little bit regulated, and it is an option for companies, typically small companies, to find their first ambassadors. So I do B2C, yes. So I do applaud it, but we don't see it a lot in our environment.
Sinja?
Yeah, crowdfunding, I think, is a good alternative to many things. In Denmark, we just recently made it possible to raise equity crowdfunding, because that hasn't been allowed. So this is when we need to move that before we can start building up the market. But it's still very small, and really, I have the impression that it's like last resort. So it's when you don't have any other options, and it should not be that. But we really need to have, I think, some good success stories here, and how you can use this in a good way to raise capital. But I also know for some of those that have tried crowdfunding, you need to spend a lot of time on it. You really need to have a very good campaign, and you need to be focused on consumers with your product. For if it's B2B, it's too complex, and you will not reach the retail investors. So it can be relevant for some kind of startups, not for all. But we need to it's like the market needs to build up. At the moment, it's very small here in Denmark.
Thank you. Let's take another question. There's a question over here. There.
Thanks. Good morning. I'm Clark Parsons from the European Startup Network. Thanks to everybody for mentioning the 28th regime, and I agree with all the points you were making. A bit of a different question, though, maybe also touching on what you just said. I was quite disappointed yesterday. There was a panel from all of the stock exchanges, and I didn't hear a single new idea, despite the fact that I think the Danish one admitted that there's been 3 years of no IPOs in Denmark. The Chancellor of Germany called for a pan-European stock exchange, because he remembers 30 years ago when Deutsche Börse tried to merge with London Stock Exchange and the EU blocked it. So I want to talk about exits. You guys are doing a great job of focusing on the beginnings, and Startup Network, we are too. Startup capital, scale-up capital, all of this. But you also mentioned the Delaware Inc., which I think is a symptom of the fact that since there's no exit market here, no real IPO market, why wouldn't a founder go to the US? Because you know that there's an exit market there. So I'm just curious to know if you guys have any ideas besides my pet idea of maybe some kind of early public offering, sort of the crowdfunding thing. We have to innovate. We've got to out-innovate the US. We've got to be attractive for founders to stay here and found here. So I'm curious if you guys have any ideas for how we can fix the broken and blocked exit market of Europe.
Yeah, I just like to add a comment there that there are exit possibilities when I invest in a startup. Typically, either you can be part of a consolidation, so you're selling to someone consolidating the market, or if you're very good, the opposite, that you're actually acquiring other smaller startups to grow. Sort of in the first instance, that's an exit. The second is there are venture funds that you can bring in to scale your company. So it's more about the fact that this third possibility of listing and accessing investors, through a stock market is not really open. And that, of course, is a huge barrier. Then you have, this is for the founders, if we can create, and we are creating, efficient secondary markets so that the founder can take some money off the table rather than having to go through the whole journey as such. So I think, there are exit possibilities, but fewer than we would like. Having said that, I have been part of listing on these growth exchanges. I've also listed companies on the main exchanges, and most people see that as a destination. It's actually only the beginning of a journey, and you are blessed with then lots and lots of regulations and stuff. So, you know, congratulations that you're now a listed company. By the way, be prepared to meet all the requirements. So it's a two-edged sword, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, I also want to talk on exit. I think it's a good remark. Every time we sit with a founder, first discussion even also goes about exit. There's a group of venture capitalists that don't want to talk about exit because they believe they want to create big companies and they don't want to talk about the elephant in the room. But I believe that we are, with the advent of AI, we see lots of point solutions. We see that AI is really optimizing efficiency. We see that building a broader company, a big company with lots of, let's say, a suite solution is not typically what founders currently are looking for. So if we have founders that are building suite point solutions, then the exit route most of the time is consolidation. And then success means 100, 200, 300 million euro exit. It doesn't mean that you can do an IPO because with a point solution, it's difficult. So either you, indeed, as Jesper says, you try to buy your way up. But also, on the other hand, if we look at IPOs, most of the startups that I talk to, they don't see IPO as a route. They see it as a very cumbersome process. There's lots of great initiatives from Euronext and others to inform them about what it takes. But at the end of the day, they don't really want to focus on getting that IPO because they can do much more with less money. They need growth capital when they really want to become bigger. But an exit is not. It's not in the eye of the startup at the moment to really go for that. So what I would see is, for us personally as investors, we see secondary markets. We see that more as an exit opportunity. We see secondary funds coming up primarily in UK, that if we have invested for 6-7 years and we want to make return for our LPs, that take our share and then they can build the next wave. They can wait for the IPO. But if it takes so long, I mean, for us, it's also not a business to go for that. So we typically, we don't push them, but we inform them about the opportunities that there are. And I think IPO at the moment is not one of those cases. Secondaries.
Thank you. Arthur?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to this point, again, it's about like who buys those companies that become 100-200 million euro big. Well, it's the large companies that buy them. Who are the large companies? Well, they are US and Chinese companies. So again, if we don't aim to build those companies that will be the consolidators, then the wealth and the growth of those companies will go to the US and China.
Yes.
So I think, again, my point here would be to say we should maybe focus on creating the rules that allow us to build those companies that actually last. I was in San Francisco as well 3-4 weeks ago, and there the mentality is never exit. Build the companies that last forever, become really, really big, and never exit. Because then you will become the ones acquiring. And I hope that we're going to see more mentality like this in the EU as well, where people are not aiming to exit when they start. They're aiming to build something that will consolidate, acquire even US companies, acquire Chinese companies, to build a very large European one.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sadly, we are out of time, but please find the panelists and speak to them, ask your questions. They're still around for a little bit time here, so please do approach them and talk together. I want to do a quick mention. There is a scale-up event today, right after SME Assembly, starting at, I think, 1 p.m. at Copenhagen City Hall. So for those of you who are staying, please go join, because it also will be investors, founders, policymakers who will be discussing how to improve entrepreneurship in the EU. Just to sum up, we can see from our discussion that Europe doesn't lack talent or capital, ideas, but it needs more scaling capital, and it needs speed. By harmonizing regulations, unlocking institutional investment, and strengthening public-private bridges, Europe can not only close the funding gap, but also keep the most ambitious founders within its borders, not pushing them outside of it. So I want to thank you, our great panelists, Sine, Jasper, Vince, Arthur, for being with us today, sharing their valuable insights. And I would love to thank you, audience, for joining us today. Thank you, and let's keep building this future together. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, and welcome to the Youth Startup Competition 25. Now we are moving into to celebrations and awards. Over the years, the European SME Week has celebrated young European talent and promoted entrepreneurships as an attractive career path amongst young Europeans. And it is in that spirit that we launched just 2 years ago, the Youth Startup Competition as a successor to the Youth Essay Competition. And it's designed to empower young entrepreneurs between the age of 18 to 25 who are developing innovative startup ideas. And in a moment, you're going to hear from 3 great young finalists of the competition, and they will present their ideas, after which you can vote live on which one you think will have the most impact. And then your votes will be added to those of the jury to determine who the winner is. And I'm just going to show you a QR code, because in order to vote, you need to scan the QR code. And I'd like you to scan it now, just to test whether everything works. And in case you cannot make the QR code works, just raise your hand, and I'm sure a team member will help you out. Anyway, when you get in, then you should choose between the rooms and choose plenary room, and then you choose the poll. And then I think you're going to answer, just to test whether everything works, you're going to answer a very, very important question related to Danish pastry. So we're going to test your skills and and whether you made yourself acquainted with Danish pastry throughout your stay in Copenhagen. So let's see if it works. Oh yeah. Which one do you prefer? Hindbærsnitter. Hindbærsnitter is a very flat one with a lot of jam on. Personally, I'm more into the frøsnapper, but it doesn't seem to have caught the audience to the same extent as the hindbærsnitter. Hindbærsnitter is a great favorite with my kids as well, so I do understand. But now, now frøsnapper moves along. No. Oh, yes. Oh, there you go. There you go. Right, okay. Thank you very much, gentlemen and ladies. It does seem to work all good, and now you're ready for the real deal. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce most of the esteemed jury members here on stage. So let's welcome Chair of the Jury, Head of Sector, SME, Igor Kalinic. Then we have with us Chief Advisor, Danish Business Authority, Sofie Jæger. We have President of PEP, the Policy Experimentarium and Evaluation Platform, Dana Redford. And then finally, winner of the 24th Youth Startup Competition and co-founder of Hydro Kappa, Federico Moriti. So good to have you all here in Copenhagen. And just, a few questions, Igor. Maybe you can speak as chair of this year's jury. Can you tell us just a bit about why it's so important for the Commission to support initiatives like this, like the Youth Startup Competition?
Yeah, thank you for your question. Actually, we do believe that the future of the European competitiveness resides in its people. And I always remember what my father says. It's a quote, and he says that the future will stay in the hands of the young ones, right? It's funny because it's true, it's simple. So we do need to invest in them, in young people. We need to empower them, but more than anything, we need to listen to the young ones. And if you think a little bit, the young generations compare what we would say wiser ones, right? The older ones. Actually, I think that the young generations are much wiser nowadays. They really have green projects. They really think about sustainable planet. They really think about how to save this planet way more than the ones that are supposed to be wiser and older. So we really have the responsibility to think about them, to empower them, and to listen to them. And it's not just about ideas. You will see this presentation. We had the chance to see 11, 12 finalists before the finalists, and they have really concrete projects. I myself was an engineer student 20 years ago, but none of my colleagues, fellows and students, colleagues, had anything like this tangible, like this. They have concrete projects that can really change our life tomorrow.
Yeah. So a great field to choose from.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much, Igor. Sophie, you are representing the Danish Presidency here, so can you tell us a bit more about what the jury was looking for in this great field of applicants?
Yes, of course. First of all, I just want to say there were so many great projects that it was actually really hard to choose 3 finalists. But choosing them, we looked into 4 different things. First of all, it should actually have an impact. It should solve some real-life problems. Second of all, we looked at, would this great idea actually be feasible? Could it turn into reality? And solve some question. Is there a business plan? There need to be like the right balance between great idea and something that's feasible. Yeah. Thirdly, we looked at can this actually scale? Would it be interesting for more people, different markets, etc.? That's also important for us. And then the last thing is the presentation, because we need to make sure that the finalists actually believe in themselves. Yeah. So if they can present it in a way that kind of make us believe in them, that was also really important for us. So I think that
we'll look into that in a minute.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll have 3 great presentations, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you agree with Igor that it was very concrete ideas, very tangible, very hands-on ideas?
Most of them, were, and that's also something that was important for us. Of course, it's important to have be creative, think big, but also need to be concrete, something that you can actually, make become reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's going to be really exciting, and nothing is decided yet because the audience and those joining us online can be a part of the decision process as well. But we're not there yet. And Federico and Dan, I'll be back to you in a minute, but definitely stay with us because we're moving to the pitches now. It's time to move to the pitches and meet our great outstanding finalists. And first up, I'd like to introduce Jonas Kvenig from Germany. He's the co-founder of IRIS, and Jonas is 22 years old. He's studying mechanical engineering and management at the University of Vienna. He is passionate about innovation and sustainability, and his project, IRIS, transforms disaster response by combining AI, real-time data, and multilingual communication to help coordinate faster and smarter during, for instance, wildfires and other crises. So, Jonas, the stage is yours, and welcome.
So, let me start this pitch with a short question. Raise your hand if you have ever tried to coordinate between more than one team or agency. Yeah, that's a lot of people. And now imagine this, but with lives at risk. This summer, Portugal and Spain faced wildfires at a record scale. On August 15th, they turned to the EU for urgent assistance, and firefighters from 7 different nations arrived. Communities were on edge, and firefighters were at their limits. But as firefighters from 7 nations came together, they faced a different kind of fire: fragmented information. Each region and every responding authority operates on separate, mostly incompatible systems, making real-time coordination nearly impossible. This lack of interoperability causes costly delays and puts lives at risk. This is where IRIS comes in. We bring together scattered data, like those of drones, satellites, and sensors, and fuse them into one clear, real-time view. This helps teams to see one picture, not just within one organization, but across agencies. This improves coordination, speeds up response times, and makes critical data available to everyone, from fire department and police to first aid and other responding authorities. But IRIS goes beyond visualization. We're planning on implementing an AI which predicts fire spread and optimizes resource allocation. It will also directly translate commands so no team is left guessing. This prevents wasted trips, but more importantly, avoids life-threatening mistakes. We validated this approach with emergency service specialists and companies like Rosenbauer. They told us AI must be a co-pilot, not a replacement. IRIS doesn't override human judgment, it enhances it. Our MVP builds a common operational picture, unifying data from GPS trackers, dispatch systems, or weather and satellite feeds. It links emergency systems and brings together isolated data in real time. This foundation raises real-time awareness and sets the stage for a smarter, data-driven collaboration in future crisis response. But this problem is far from limited to wildfires. We've talked to government officials in Sri Lanka, and they told us they're overwhelmed with data but have no way to act on it. This is a global problem. Now to the financial part. So IRIS runs on a software as a service subscription model with two main revenue streams. The first side is a business to government side, pricing ranging from region size and active or amount of active teams. We would also offer an optional onboarding and situational training service. This is a very strong market with a 10.4% compound annual growth rate, which is due to the increasing climate-related crisis, but also due to the demographic pressure these emergency services are under. The second side is a business-to-business side for insurance companies and logistic companies offering risk modeling and forecasting. Across both sides, pricing ranges from multi-year and monthly contracts generating reoccurring and predictable revenue. To our roadmap. We've reached out to, well, we're currently in phase 1, and we've reached out to emergency officials to really figure out their pain points and validate our riskiest hypotheses. The aim for us is to build relationships and to prepare for future pilot projects. This is really critical for IRIS since we want to develop IRIS with and not just only for first responders. Phase 2 is all about scaling up our technology, and we want to partner up with research institutes to develop AI prediction and translation tools. This is to create a system that can understand data, context, and language in real time. We're Maxima Musu and Jonas Kevenik, two mechanical engineering and management students with early entrepreneurial experience and a technical foundation. In short, IRIS transforms chaos into coordination, giving first responders and our nature the speed and safety they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jonas, and all the best of luck. So our second finalist is Gonçalo Ribeiro from Portugal. Gonçalo is 23 years old. He is a PhD fast-track student at the Instituto Superior Técnico in Lisbon and founder and lead of the FlashGuard project. That is a patent-pending innovation making flash radiotherapy safe for clinical use by enabling ultra-fast, precise radiation delivery. FlashGuard aims to revolutionize cancer treatment, protecting healthy tissue while saving lives. So, Gonçalo, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gonçalo Ribeiro, and I'm here to present the FlashGuard project. In a short sentence, FlashGuard is the key to enable the clinical use of one of the most promising radiotherapy techniques existing at the moment. As we are all aware, cancer is one of the modern medicine challenges. As 2022, there were more than 20 million cases around the world, and this number is expected to rise by more than 50% in 2045. Up to a quarter of Europeans will develop cancer during their course of life. However, we still do not possess a fully effective treatment to address this disease. Currently, one of the treatments that is used is conventional radiotherapy, that it's used in 50% of all cancer cases, even though it comes with a cost, which are side effects. I don't know if you are aware with this, but people experience short-term and long-term side effects, and this is especially critical for children as well. In addition, conventional radiotherapy may take up to 25 sessions of treatment, and this causes low efficiency in patient and low efficiency in resource use, burdening our healthcare system. Okay, so to address this, researchers have been trying to minimize side effects. One of the techniques is flash radiotherapy. To show you the effects that flash has, you can see in the top left figure the comparison between the conventional mode and flash mode. Flash delivers radiation which was in a few minutes during several sessions over days or weeks in a few milliseconds, so less than a second. And you can see that the pig skin was irradiated with the same amount of radiation, and yet the conventional mode, we can clearly see the darkening of the skin, which shows the side effects associated with this therapy. On the other hand, for flash, we cannot see those same results. So flash is a game changer. We are talking about something that may reduce patient side effects significantly, improving their quality of life, and ensure that they can live with their loved ones during and after treatment with quality of life. But this is not the only benefit of flash. Flash is also really important for our healthcare systems, because we are talking about a shorter treatment that may take only one session. So this reduces our pressure in our healthcare systems and improves treatment efficiency and increases capacity. Europe is leading the effort in transfer flash radiotherapy. Actually, it was discovered in 2014 in France, and now we have clinical trials among all the countries in Europe. So Europe is at the forefront of cancer treatment. But as you can see in the article that I cite over here, flash has a critical technological gap that needs to be overcome, which is the need of a monitoring device capable of real-time output measurement and beam control, which means that in case the machine malfunctions, we need to act really fast. We are talking about a 100 faster treatment, so we need 100 times faster devices. To achieve this, we are using our knowledge in particle physics. We are using a Cherenkov effect, which is when particles travel faster than light in a medium, they emit light. So if we detect this light fast with a fast photodetector, as we can see in the scheme in here that we propose and patent, we can provide fast feedback to the machine as well. So during the treatment, we can be aware and act fast. This is something that traditional equipment was not designed for, because they were not designed to cope with this amount of radiation in such a shorter period of time. And what we are doing, we are applying in an innovative way particle physics knowledge. This started as a solo project 2 years ago. This year, this is starting in December, we will welcome 4 new students, because entrepreneurship is not always about an idea, but you have to surround yourselves with ambitious people that drive this project forward. We are also supported by an advisory committee of leading experts, and I am a PhD student at Technico. These two are my 2 supervisors. I would like to end this presentation by thank you to the whole organization and to our partners, like Caixa Foundation, that has been funding us with this innovative project. Thank you very much all for your attention. I'm more than eager to all your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gonzalo, and all the best of luck to you too. So our third and last finalist is Michael Strudler from Austria. He's the co-founder of Wendy Wind Energy. After inventing a quiet, efficient vertical wind turbine during his studies, Michael co-founded Wendy to make wind power accessible for everyone, even when the wind is weak, helping households, farms and businesses achieve energy independence and also drive the global transition to clean energy. Michael, the floor is yours.
We are Wendy, and we are revolutionizing the market with the first smart small wind turbine. Dear audience, my name is Michael Strudler, and I want to talk with you about one of the greatest challenges of our time, climate neutrality. And I believe that climate neutrality is not a choice, it's our responsibility. But to achieve it, we need smart energy solutions that are efficient, decentralized, and accessible for everyone. And we need more than just solar panels. We need an additional pillar of local green energy that also works when the sun isn't shining. And energy isn't just electricity, it's independence. Independence from fossil fuels, from rising prices and unstable grids. And we at Wendy believe in small wind power as one of the keys for the energy transition. However, small wind power today is far from reaching its potential. Most systems are too loud and causes vibration. They only start producing energy at higher wind speeds, which means they stand still when the energy is most needed. And even when they do run, the efficiency is low, while installation and maintenance costs remain high. As a result, most systems are simply not economical. And so instead of being part of the energy transition, small wind power remains as a niche. So we ask ourselves, what if we rethink small wind power from zero? What if we can build the perfect wind turbine? The result? Wendy, a vertical axis wind turbine with a flap system that enables a startup at lower wind speed, high efficiency, and a quiet operation. But how does it work? Our flaps are opened at stillstand. This increases the exposed area to the wind, and therefore we have a higher starting torque. And at a certain rotational speed, the centrifugal forces closes the flaps automatically, and we can use the full potential of our wind turbine without a compromise. Simple, but powerful. And our wind turbines are the perfect addition to existing PV system whenever for households, farms, or businesses. The vertical design and the low rotational speeds enables us to keep our noise emission low, meaning there is no impact on the environment or its residents. But what really separates us from our competition is our flap system. As mentioned before, it enables us to start up at lower wind speeds, and therefore we are able to produce up to 20% more energy than a comparable wind turbine without our flap system. Thanks to our modular design, we can easily adjust the diameter and the height of our wind turbine and therefore keep our production costs low while serving several power classes to the customer. And last but not least, our system is patented throughout Europe. My co-founder and I started the company during our diploma thesis. Since then, we have built several prototypes and has perfected our system. The Wendy team now consists of almost 10 people with know-how in a variety of fields like electronics, mechanical engineering, and aerodynamics. And together, we are entering the market next year with the first series of Wendy wind turbines as a part of our Wendy Pioneer program. And this marks the next step of our mission, creating small-scale wind power for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael, and good luck to you too. So thanks all of you for excellent presentations. We'll get back to you in a minute, but before we move on to voting, let's have a look at some of the highlights from the three pitches, because we have our graphic reporter with us, Miriam Matola Dendaluce, and we should be able to get that on screen, yes, because Miriam has been working on some of on the projects we just heard of. So Miriam, maybe you can take us through some of your observations. Yeah, we're just going to get some sound on the hand mic. No, we still don't have some sound on the hand mic. No. We're going to get you a new one, I think. Because this is really amazing. I want you to explain it all to us, because it's really nice to hear you explain how it all plays out when you work like this on your iPad. But anyway, here goes.
Yeah,
Hello.
now I have it. Now it's incredible how every time I do the graphic recording for the Youth Startup competition, it's how to see these young entrepreneurs shaping the future, solving real life problems. We are with these three guys giving solutions to local green energy through wind, how they are taking care of patients with cancer, making a better quality of life for them, and also saving lives, coordinating a lot of energies through disaster response. So it's incredible how to see them, and this is just a glimpse, a drawing of what inspiring they are for all of us.
Well, thank you very much, Miriam. It was definitely great presentations, but it's also very fascinating to follow your work. So I suggest that we give our graphic recorders a hand. It's really been great having you on board the Assembly as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, now let's go for the voting process. Now it's your turn to be a part of the competition. So what you do is, whether you're here in the room or joining us online, you can go to scan the QR code, go to the list of rooms, select the plenary session, and then you can vote on the finalists who basically inspired you the most, and the finalist you think is going to make the biggest change. So, while we wait for this process, I will ask you, Federico, a short question, because it's great to have you here. You won the competition in 24, so that's last year, and great to have you back here in the Assembly. And I was wondering whether you could take us a little back, because last year you captured the audience with your vision for your organization, Hydro Kappa, and since then you've grown. And maybe you can share some of the milestones and experiences that you've had during the last year.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me here. It's a great pleasure to be back. After winning the Youth Startup competition has been a great journey, full of challenges, to be honest. But
well, that's life as a startup, I guess.
We could be on the European Innovation Council Summit, where we were right on the heart of the European innovation ecosystem, and side by side with cutting-edge technology and truly inspiring entrepreneurs and innovators. So it was like a wow effect in our journey. After that, we won a health-related award too, which was important to us because it made it possible to expand our horizons and our target audience. It's been kind of a roller coaster since the last year, but really grateful experience at all. And basically, during the hard times, we taught a lot of a quote, which is, what you are not changing, you are choosing. And I would like all of you to think about it, because for example, for us, we choose to change. So I believe no matter how difficult it can be for sometimes, I believe it's worth it, although it's really challenging. And this last year was full of downs, not so much ups, but was a great experience. And the Youth Startup competition was truly a turning point.
Yeah. So Federico, just a reflection on what it means to win the competition. What has it meant to you?
So as I was saying, I believe it was a turning point in our entrepreneurial journey. It gave us a lot of confidence, visibility, and gave us a true sense of purpose and in our society, and that our voice was being heard in a major audience. And I believe this type of European initiatives are truly the fundamental base for us young entrepreneurs, because gave us so much attention and the opportunities to network, meet investors, collaborate with other people. So thank you, European Commission. And I believe it's really important to keep these initiatives and maybe do more.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been great overall.
So it gives a lot of confidence and energy for the challenges ahead. But Federico, great to have you here, and all the best of luck for the years to come. It seems like there's another few challenges out there, but I guess that is life as an entrepreneur. So Dana, good to have you here. So from your perspective as a supporter of education related to entrepreneurship, can you tell us a little bit about what you see as the biggest benefits of competitions like the one we're in the midst of?
For sure. Well, first of all, we can say that the European Commission's definition of entrepreneurship is putting ideas into action. And so we see this with these great young people who are here. And I think this is complementary to what we can learn at university or in other entrepreneurship education and training. Also, we have this saying in the Silicon Valley, at the University of California at Berkeley, where I'm a senior fellow, and that is that we should fail early and fail often. And that is to say that we need to look at this as something that's part of a career path. And I know so many people here at the SME Assembly support this as a career path. And that we see this as part of something where we have successes, then we have failure, we have challenges, we rise to those challenges, and this is part of entrepreneurship. And I think this is something that competitions like this can support. And I think we have great young people here in Europe who are doing wonderful things.
Yes, and we've met 3 of them now, and we're in the midst of trying to figure out who is going to be the winner. So thank you very much, Dana, for sharing your insights, and I think we can maybe officially close the audience vote now, and then while the team sort of calculates the result, then let's talk about, Igor, maybe we can talk about this exciting prize that awaits our winner, because this year's champion will be invited to attend the prestigious European Innovation Council Summit in 2026. It's a gathering of the top European innovators. And sadly, Anita Krohn couldn't be here. She's board member of the European Innovation Council, and she's also a member of the jury, which was why I said we have most of the jury with us, but not the full jury. She's unable to attend, but Igor, as chair of the as chair of the jury, maybe you could tell us a bit more about the summit and why it's such a valuable opportunity to attend for the young entrepreneurs of Europe.
Thank you. Well, definitely I can tell you a little bit more about that. Federico already touched upon. European Innovation Council is the initiative of the European Union, the European Commission, that aims actually at supporting, assisting and investing in the European startups. But it's not just a venture capital. Actually, it is a venture capital arm of the European Commission. It's something quite innovative in the landscape, where it's actually the state, so to say, the public institution directly investing in the great ideas. But it's also, I call it venture capital with the heart, because actually you are also provided with a number of services that helps the startups to scale up, to transform them into really actually not businesses based on promises only, which is the startup, but also businesses that are producing and that actually they are producing operational value. And one very important thing about European Innovation Council is that actually we want to keep these startups in Europe.
Yes.
So it's a game changer. It's to have to help the startups, but help them also stay in Europe. And the winner will be invited to the annual event, to the annual summit, which, if I'm not wrong, is at the beginning of June this year in Brussels, where we gather not only startuppers, entrepreneurs, but also investors, policymakers, and the whole entrepreneurial ecosystem that is around the startups. Mm-hmm. So for a young startup, actually it is the place to be, because it's a place where they can learn what is the startup world outside their country, outside their city, what is in the state of art across the whole Europe.
Yeah, so a great networking event, and also an honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, the moment we've all been waiting for is here. The votes are in. It's time to announce the winner. It's on the lectern, and Igor and Sophie, you've promised me and the audience to go to the lectern and announce the winner.
Oh, here it comes. The envelope, and the winner is
Gonzalo Ribeiro.
Ooh. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you. Maybe I should tie the just to be polite, please. Thank you.
Picture time.
Gonzalo.
May I also invite everyone
Absolutely.
family picture? So
yeah,
please,
absolutely.
the finalists.
We'll just have a quick family photo with the
jury
finalists.
members, please. Everyone. Maybe in the center, the finalists.
And you know, I know there's only one winner, but it really is a great honor to be runner-up. So, so congratulations to all the three finalists. Thank you very much. And Gonzalo, I think you have promised us maybe a few words. Yeah. So please go to the lectern and let us know your thoughts.
Okay, first word that I would like to make is for the three gentlemen sitting now, because they did very nice projects. I heard them carefully, and we were engaging and talking to each other, and they deserve a word of appreciation. So if you don't mind applauding them as well. It's honest. I would like to thank my family, because they funded me during these years. To my funding partners, they are funding me now. To my two supervisors, and in particular Professor Pedro, because he was the one that pushed me always to do these things, and he deserves a special word, because teachers like him are not available everywhere. Okay? So, yeah, I wasn't counting with this, but... a final word of appreciation to the jury, because I believe that you did an amazing job, and to the organization, because I have organized events, obviously not with this size, but they are really complicated to do, and they deserve also a word of appreciation as well. So thank you to them, and thank you all to being here.
Thank you very much, Gonzalo, and all the best of luck with your journey and your invention. So, and also from me, thank you very much to our wonderful jury. And Nate is not here, but thanks a lot for joining and all the hard work choosing the right finalists and the winner in the end. So to all of you guys, please stay here in the auditorium, because we're just about to conclude this year's assembly. So we'll just take a few more family photos, and then we are ready for the concluding session. So stay with us. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, now we are slowly coming to an end of this year's SME Assembly. We are at the closing session. I hope you all agree that it has been some very busy 36 hours, but hopefully also very stimulating for you participants. We have had contributions from all over Europe, and it's really been a pleasure moderating everything. So the purpose of this session is just to basically send you off with a few concrete ideas as to how SMEs can be supported in these really uncertain times, and in order to achieve a more competitive and independent European economy. So we have a few keynote speakers, very short keynotes though, and they are going to share their highlights of the assembly, and they're going to set out their top priorities for the years to come. But first, it's my great pleasure to introduce the winner of the Youth Startup competition. You just met him, Gonzalo Ribeiro. He will give us just a very few words on what he thinks that the startup community needs in order to grow. Gonzalo, the floor is yours. And congratulations.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you once again for listening to me. I will start by answering to the question, what does a startup need? And I will talk about our particular case. So this started as a project 2 years ago, and the thing that we always need, especially as we are dealing with something with deep tech, is funding. And funding, for instance, in Europe, it's about 10% of what is invested in venture capital, whereas in the United States and China is 50 and 40% respectively. Without funding, even though we have a good idea, we cannot compete sometimes with the other markets, simply because they can offer higher salaries and they can move fast. But also, Europe has a unique environment as students and researchers are well equipped. They are all recognized. For instance, in particle physics, where I'm from, we are leading in this field. We have CERN in Switzerland. This has come up with lots of innovations, and it's part of our job to find them and put them in the market. So if I were to make a suggestion, it would be to have a more connected environment between universities, public grants, and the private sector. Because sometimes researchers, as I, lack the competence to do entrepreneurship, because we have a technical profile. We are used to make decisions like with rationality. We are not used to take human into consideration sometimes. And this is something that we welcome, and the multidisciplinary work would be really nice. And this is something that the European Union should provide as well. If we are trying to do something, we should do it together as well. Because with a team, we move faster. It may be slow at first, but we reach to a higher ground. So thank you very much. I am more than welcome to hear all of you as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much again, Gonzalo, and all the best of luck with your venture in the future. So now I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Sandra Parthy. She is president of the Employers Group of European Economic and Social Committee, and she will give her analysis and recommendations on the challenges of boosting SME competitiveness over the next 4 years. Welcome, Sandra.
Thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much for the friendly invitation and introduction. And thank you for the opportunity to address this assembly on behalf of the European Economic and Social Committee in my role as the president of the Employers Group, which is representing businesses, industry and employer associations from all over the EU, and a number of which you have actually heard during various panels during this assembly. So my highlights and my takeaways. SMEs are very much alive and kicking. In fact, employment in the SME sector has steadily grown since the pandemic. In particular, micro-enterprises have shown a remarkable resilience to economic shocks. So all peachy, right? Well, this assembly, with all the contributions, the real life and the best practice examples, the very engagement of entrepreneurs and their representatives here in the exchanges demonstrated that Europe's SMEs continue to innovate, to adapt with remarkable creativity, be it in biotech startups, be it using AI in companies, and also young people taking up the challenge of being an entrepreneur. So there's reason for optimism. However, there is no denying that EU economic power in the world has persistently declined, and our strategic position has been seriously weakened by geopolitical tensions, as well as high energy prices, the regulatory burden, and the labor shortages, and also the access to finance. So despite the optimism, the reality is that SMEs continue to face some of the toughest political challenges today. Navigating complex regulations that keep changing, limited access to finance, and the race to digitalize and decarbonize. The reality is also that the number of leading innovators is decreasing compared to the United States, and the share of EU firms among the top R&D companies has dropped significantly. This transatlantic gap is particularly wide when it comes to software development, where US companies account for 75% of the global total. The EU has 6%. So we have heard over the past days how SMEs face double and triple legislative requirements and sanctions as a result of the additional wave of regulation and existing requirements, regardless of pledges of burden reduction, of making things easier and more accessible for them. So in order to preserve the support and the optimism for the European project, social cohesion and wealth, we need to regain the perspective of growth for companies and citizens across Europe. We cannot afford to lose the entrepreneurs to the US, the Arab world, or elsewhere. They are the backbone of our economy, and this economy is the basis for our way of life. The message from SMEs in this assembly to politicians, therefore, is deliver on reducing administrative burden to make growth simpler, faster, and fairer for small businesses. Tear down the barriers and give us a properly functioning single market. And do not overpromise and underdeliver. As every entrepreneur knows, raising expectations and then disappointing is the surest way to create frustration and resentment amongst your clients and customers. SMEs are still here and holding their own, but wishing for startups to stay in the EU is not enough. The role of SMEs and entrepreneurs is to deliver goods and services, to be innovative and creative, and they are doing their part. The role for politicians is to enable them to do that. So please live up to that end of the bargain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for these important takeaways. And please take a seat, because in a minute we'll take a few questions from the floor. But first, we need more panelists on the stage. So I'd like to invite Andreas Hauptmann to the stage. He is SME envoy for Denmark, and he will reflect on the achievements made by the Danish Presidency in order to move competitiveness for the SMEs ahead. Welcome, Andreas.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's never easy to condense a couple of days, and I don't even recall the number of workshops being done in the last few days. Instead, I will just share a few highlights for me as being an envoy and part of hosting this year's event. I think we have explored both the challenges and opportunities for SMEs in the last couple of days, and they have underlined for me the truly indispensable role of SMEs in the economy and in the EU as a whole. I think I also take with me that the situation for SMEs are dire at the moment, and there is a very, very concrete call to action for actually making it easier to be an SME in today's EU. I was also reminded, both during the Schumpeter lecture and also the awards yesterday, that what it means to be an entrepreneur is very many different things. We have a very long range of what we call entrepreneurship in the EU, and we should probably keep it that way. And there's a very big difference of being an everyday entrepreneur or being an informal entrepreneur and being helped to be legit, as was one of the success stories in France, to be a high-flying growth SME that's ready to embark on all of the single market and even beyond. So I think we need to keep both pictures in our head at the same time moving forward. And still, they also share quite a few of the challenges. Access to finance was already mentioned. I think I take with me also that even due to all these challenges, we still have a very, very positive energy from the entrepreneurs we are seeing, that they still believe that you can make the digital and green transition a pathway to growth and competitiveness for them. We need to keep that in our minds as well. But what I take with me the most is also maybe a part of what Sandra mentioned, so we agree on that, is that we need to keep focus on reducing the burdens, and we need to do it very, very fast. We need to make everyday life easier in a way that keeps the SMEs believing that they have a chance on this continent. We need to simplify the regulation. That's a first step. I also firmly believe that even though we simplify, we need a lot of regulation in order to keep a single market and not 27 diverse markets across the EU. So we need to find a way to make the single market work, and we need to find a way to work with data that's easy to handle for SMEs. And sometimes this notion about digitizing, automating can be an abstract cause for action, but it's very, very concrete, helping SMEs and the everyday entrepreneurs actually doing the bookkeeping late at night, making it easier to be sure that the books are right. Also, when the public authorities shows up and will know what you are doing. And then in the end, I will just say we need to keep both pictures, both the everyday entrepreneurs and the high-flowing growth SMEs in our heads. We also need to keep both pictures in our head of SMEs facing dire challenges and the need for us to act right now, but also to keep a positive mind, saying there's still a lot of great ideas out there. There's a lot of young people who actually have ideas and have still a belief that they can be able to change the world. We need to support them in that journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andreas, for these uplifting and also very kind words. And then let's get our last panelist on the floors. I would like to invite Uti Slotboom. She's Director of Supply Chain and Business Analysis at DG Grow, and she will present her conclusions of this year's assembly. Welcome, Uti.
Thank you. Thank you. It is difficult to imagine that we are already reaching the end. We have had a very rich program. We have covered a huge amount of topics, a lot of clicks, and I'm still wondering who is getting the prize, which might have something to do with chocolates. We have discussed digitalization, standardization, SME internationalization, skills, intellectual property, sustainability. It has been a very rich event, and we have got, speaking for the European Commission, we have got a lot of good policy advice, hints, comments for our work, and I hope that every participant can take some of the new things home, things you maybe had not realized before. Just to pick a few things from the policy discussions, if there was a topic that came up in nearly every workshop or panel, it was the regulatory burden. It was the need to simplify, reduce the burden on companies so that they can put their resources on productive work and not on administrative burdens. of course, the European Commission has started this work. The omnibuses which we have presented this year will amount to more than 8 billion of annual savings to companies, but this is only the beginning. And the member states are invited to run a similar exercise in their countries. A second quote that I heard in so many discussions, the report of Mario Draghi and his report on competitiveness. We need more innovation. We need a huge amount of new investments. We have to find the funds for that. We have to be more competitive. Thirdly, the single market. Our data show that small businesses which sell or operate outside their home country, in nearly all the cases, expand their operations to another EU member state, which shows that the single market does work. It is a lot easier to operate in another country in the single market than in a third country. But much more can be done. We have launched a single market strategy. We have a specific exercise ongoing where we look at single market barriers to SMEs, and this will continue. But then I wanted to go to the fourth and final theme which I picked, which is really very much for me the symbol of this year's assembly. Are there hidden things? Have we really looked as policymakers at the right things? Are there things we don't see? And this, of course, started with a Schumpeter lecture. Professor Welter saying that we too often tend to focus on the few high-growth, high-tech scale-ups, and we forget the very large number of everyday entrepreneurs, as she put it. And she said, don't look at what may be a fairy tale, but look at what is the great number of companies which generate a lot of local value added and are important in their local communities. That comparison somehow also reminded me of our lawmaking approach, where very often laws are written for companies and then there is a derogation for small businesses. And knowing that if you look at staff numbers, 99.9% of companies are small businesses or medium-sized businesses. The question is, are we doing the right job in taking as a standard case the 0.1 and then giving a derogation to the very large mass? So the symbol for me of this assembly has really been, is there a hidden economy somewhere there, or at least is the real economy somehow below our radar screen, and do we need to also look at things other than the things that we have looked at so far? I also heard in the many discussions I had that micro companies very often are hidden or don't fall into the focus of policymakers because of their small size. We had a workshop on hidden champions, which are the mid-caps, where one of the panelists said that mid-caps which are successful are often hidden because they only deliver to a small number of other companies and the consumers don't know them. So there are a lot of things which we have to keep in our minds. It's not only the few big successes of which we read in the newspapers, but it is really the large quantity of SMEs out there. I wanted to close by quoting 3 people who spoke in the SME performance workshop. There was a person representing, in this case, Danish industry, who said that Europe certainly is the right place to do business. We have a lot of challenges, but there is a business case in Europe. And he said he had been elected as the most optimist person in Denmark this year. Then there was a second person who said, look, I have seen the data that you have shown to us, and since everything is so bad, I can't understand why the data are not even much worse than they are, because there is careful optimism in the corporate sector. And then he introduced himself as a lobbyist, and he said that a job of a lobbyist is to complain about everything. And then we had the third person who said that her origins were outside the European Union, who said that sometimes many of us are blind and we don't see the good things and the assets that we have, like the very strong research base. We have seen a lot of companies now. We have seen the great youth startups. We have seen the small and mid caps, which were awarded yesterday. And what I believe all these successful companies have in common is having their feet on the ground, seeing what the challenges are and what the difficulties are, but also seeing the great potential that there is and being optimistic looking forward. So really combining the three statements that I quoted. So with this, I would like to thank our Danish hosts, all the speakers, all the moderators, all the participants for your active participation, the organizing team, and of course the companies which were present. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Uti, and thanks for joining us here in the panel. So now we have time for just a few questions from the audience, and this is really a great opportunity. You can ask us anything. Preferably related to the SME environment. And I think that the first question comes from one of the finalists of the European SME Week Young Journalist Challenge in 25. And she's called Anna Navarro-Bullo. Anna, where do we have you? Ah, you're right there. Okay, hang on a second. We'll have a mic for you.
Hi, thank you so much for the conclusion. Take notes. My question would be, how can member states, in the presence of a possible non-agreement over the omnibus package, how could member states design and implement national simplification measures that provide relief to SMEs while safeguarding the integrity of the single market? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone in particular you'd like to answer the question? Or?
Maybe Uti.
Okay, maybe Uti. Yeah. Good. Uti, go ahead.
No, I'm terribly happy about this question, because usually when we talk about barriers and administrative burdens, everybody is asking why the Commission is not doing more. So once asking what the member states can do, I think it's really putting your finger on the right place. Companies very often, when they have administrative burdens, they do not necessarily know who is behind, whether it is the implementation of an EU directive or whether it is a national rule, an administrative practice of the local community. We have tried in the Commission, next to doing our own homework and simplifying EU rules, we have put together barriers at member state level under the heading of Terrible 10. And we are really looking at member state level. We are collecting feedback from companies, and in the different fora that we have where we discuss with the member states, we are also trying to expose this information and ask them to do more, because there is so much which is an administrative burden on companies that originates from the national, regional or local level. And it can be an administrative practice, slow permitting process, other things. So there really is a lot to do, and I hope that everybody who is here from the member states takes this message home.
Yeah. So Andreas, clearly this is an issue in Denmark as well. Would you like a go on that question as well?
Well, it's definitely a shared effort to actually reduce burdens, so it's getting easier to be a business. And I think even if we don't have a simplification at the EU level, there's still much we can do nationally in each of the member states. That said, I think we have calculated that 70% of the Danish laws regarding business originates from EU. So of course what we do at EU level matters, but we still have a lot of wiggle room from the EU regulation and putting it into force in our member states. And we have authorities that need to be brave and bold, and often also when they interpret the legal text, there is leeway, because it's often a compromise, so we can make it easier in the implementation phase if we dare go to the borders of the legal text that we all have agreed upon.
Okay. So maybe a bit of, you can challenge the borders there. Okay, Sandra, just a quick go.
Just a quick go, indeed. So yeah, member states could simply stop to gold plate for the European rules. So that would already be helpful to not add to what has been decided on the European level. That would be one way forward. We are actually having in the ESC a new sort of observatory that deals with the single market enforcement issues, and there we will also have to look at the barriers, collect some concrete examples from the member state level on where the member states are putting up new barriers beyond what is actually required at the European level. And this, I think, is also something that should be very helpful to member states to actually also see to implement some European legislation can be done and is done very differently from one to the other. And maybe you look around a bit and take the best practice example, the least burdensome sort of approach to implement European legislation, and then use this everywhere.
Okay, thank you. Right, okay, there's a question over here. So please introduce yourself and maybe also for whom the question is aimed.
My name is Andreas Lutz from Munich. Founders and self-employed people, so I'm talking for micro entrepreneurs. My question is, what could and should be done to give everyday entrepreneurs higher visibility at future SME assemblies?
Uti, I guess that ends with you as well.
I think it's a great idea. We have not yet drafted the program of next year's assembly, so the suggestions are very welcome. And indeed, micro companies were one of the examples that I mentioned under the different types of companies which may have gone too much under our radar screen, because in the SME segment, micro companies create the most employment. Their jobs are growing faster than the other sectors. They are a very dynamic sector and they are very important locally. So what can be done is to organize a discussion, but then of course to do something to help micro companies, it cannot be one workshop, but we really have to see whether this is an area where the Commission could do more and not get it lost under the radar screen of looking at fairy tales, as others put it. So to be reflected, and thank you very much for the suggestion. Other suggestions for next year's program are also very welcome, and the sooner the better.
Of course. All right, let's have a final question from the floor. Go ahead.
Hi. Thank you very much. It was a great another assembly. We've been here for years now, and every time it's even better. So thank you very much. My name is Tess Rutgers. I'm currently a partner of the We Build consortium, which is focusing on the digital identity and then the digital identity wallets. Obviously, we all know there are already product passports. There are natural person passports. We're trying to align all the member states. This consortium is now focusing on the business wallet, or the enterprise identity wallet. And as you just mentioned, what are the could be the topics for next year's agenda? I think this is very important because the wallets might actually bring down the administrative burden. Compliance can sometimes be integrated within the process or in the transactions of the wallet principles. And since there are 180 partners, public and private, also 12 business registrations included in this program, I suggest that we make sure that we bridge that gap between, because it's already been mentioned within the consortium that the whole SME layer is not really involved or properly updated on what is going on. And I think it's very important not to work only top down, but make sure that we work bottom up to make it more practical.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Was there a question, or it was just a reflection?
Okay, this is typically me. I'm so sorry. In Dutch, you say put in one coin and then she keeps going. So now my face is getting even more red.
Yeah.
More blushing. But the thing is, no, my question is, are you aware of this? Do you agree with this?
Yes, okay.
And what are the things that we should be focusing on from this consortium perspective and the stakeholder community?
And is that aimed for Uti as well?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so too.
Sorry, Oti.
Yeah.
Thanks. The consortium, I mean, it's not in our Directorate General that we are talking about, but of course we are very actively following digitalization agenda. And the one thing that we are doing for SMEs, which is very closely related, is what we call SME ID, which is a digital way of putting in as a company the information that is required to qualify as a small business. Because for a lot of support programs, support actions, which are restricted to SMEs, there needs to be proof of being an SME, and we are trying to make it a lot easier for companies to submit this proof, which could then be something that can be stored in an ID wallet or another format. So SME ID is our part of this, and for the rest, I took good note, and my colleagues have also taken note. So thank you very much for your comments.
And thank you very much. And clearly, all input for next year's assembly is welcome. So Sandra, Andreas, and Oti, thank you very much for these closing remarks, and thank you for picking up a few points and takeaways from the conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you very much for these speeches and the stimulating exchange. And then I'd just like to say thank you for being a wonderful audience, and have a safe trip back. And now I'd hand over the final word to Mr. André Meyer. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jenne. And ladies and gentlemen, give it away for Nynne Bjerre Christensen, our host for the last 2 days.
Thank you, André.
Tak, Nynne. Vi har vel fantastisk.
And du taler så godt dansk. Thank you. You are brilliant at Danish. That was it.
It's just the one phrase I trained for 2 days. We organized the SME Assembly with the Danish Presidency of the Council. So what would be more natural than asking Andreas Hauptmann again on stage and join me here, because I have a few questions for you.
But normally it's me that turns to you, Frank.
Andreas, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you that the SME Assembly and in a way the presidency are almost over?
I think it would stretching it saying that the presidency is almost over, but I think we are on a solid 9. Very good days, but it's also good to have a little bit of normalcy coming back.
Thank you very much. At least he didn't say 11, huh? We've had many meetings, hours of preparation with your team, with you. What's the one piece of advice with hindsight that you would have liked to have before you started the endeavor with us?
It's actually difficult. I think I'm very happy that the conversation has been very, very ongoing. It has been practical, and it has been very, very open on both ends. So there has not been that many surprises. There's always a few practical surprises once you arrange an event at this size. But I would say, again, keep your priorities clear, so you know what you want to have as part of the event, and then makes the conversation also with you and your team much, much easier.
Thank you, Andreas. And there's the last question. If there is equally one piece of advice that you would give Ross Church, the Irish colleague who is taking over, which would that be, this one piece of advice?
Well, I think when we started yesterday, both my own minister, but also Hubert Gams talked about Team Europe here. And I think we all need to take that notion into account leaving the SME Assembly. But actually planning for the SME Assembly, I think Ross needs to be very much aware of picking out a team SME for him to actually deliver on this event. Because in that case, he can himself lean back and enjoy the fruits of the hard work of everybody in his own team. I think that has been the possibility for me, so I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you, Andreas. Stay with me. Stay with me. Ladies and gentlemen, this conference is an endeavor brought to you by many people. There are those who you might see, and there are many you don't see. Let me start by thanking Sophia Jäger from Andreas' team, and the two Almas, obviously, and the whole team from the Danish Presidency, respectively, from the Danish Business Authority. Thank you very much. Tak to you. Thank you. Let me also thank my own team and the colleagues from the Executive Agency for SMEs. And in a way, let me thank my hierarchy for allowing me to do these things. And all the efforts all our efforts would not have led us anywhere without Low Europe, Abbott, Co-Creative Flow, Bill Monday's wonderful badges, you know, the chocolate challenge, and Maria Canizai's wonderful and beautiful photos that you can enjoy on Flickr, as well as our local partners, AV Group, and the Forum as the venue. That brings me already to 2026. We'll be in Dublin under Irish presidency, and the SME Assembly in its 14th year will evolve. It will extend to new policy fields and involve the cluster community. It will require careful thinking of of what to keep and what to change. And with that, I would like to invite on stage Ross Church, SME Envoy for Ireland. Ross, join us. And perhaps we could do a photo of the two gentlemen, one worried and one relieved. Thank you. Is it? Before giving you the floor, no, you can already go to the lectern if you want. Before giving you the floor, it remains to me to wish you first a nice last little networking lunch. Enjoy the last moments of networking here at the SME Assembly. And I wish you safe travels. And a particular wish for safe travels goes to the Ukrainian delegation, Slava Ukraini. Thank you for coming and always traveling here with all the hazards that you have. And with that, I hand over to Ross.
Thank you, Andre. Thank you very much for that, and thank you, Andreas. It's a great honor for me personally as Ireland's SME envoy to take the reins, to take the baton. Andreas, your words are ringing in my ears. But just to say, on behalf of Ireland and our upcoming presidency this time next year, we're really looking forward to hosting the SME Assembly in Dublin. It can be officially revealed. For those who don't know, Ireland has a very dynamic economy, a vibrant startup community, but like the rest of Europe, SMEs, not just the backbone, but they're the beating heart of our economy. They're so important, and that's why we need to do more. And I think you'll see a lot of continuation of the themes that we've discussed over the last few days will follow through in Dublin next year. Simplification, deepening and having the full extent of the single market, competitiveness, access to finance. So I think just to say thanks to Andreas for his team and the Danish presidency. We've learned a lot. You've been very open. Your minister's words about Team Europe echoed in my head again. There's an Irish phrase, New York go Curla Kayla, which means there's no strength without unity. And I think that's something that we will take forward. So just to say a final thanks to the Commission services, to Andre, to his team. We look forward to working close with you. Congratulations again to the Danish Presidency. And I think we now have a video to give a small snippet of what to expect in Dublin and in Ireland next year. So, Gormila Mahogiv Galer.
Thank you and goodbye.